If you saw this today, you'd call it a lizard, a chameleon, specifically. But you'd be dead wrong. Because 150 million years ago, while the king of the dinosaurs was still millions of years away from being born, nature had already invented the chameleon. The twist? It wasn't a reptile. It was a glitch, an amphibian that decided the rules of being a frog were too boring, so it stole a lizard's entire identity. I know it looks impossible. When I first saw this 2026 report, I was like, how? But the fossils don't lie. And for your satisfaction, you can check the link below. So in early 2026, a discovery in Portugal broke the evolutionary timeline. Nabiaciviscientrix, a creature so small it could sit on your thumbnail, but so biologically advanced it was using sniper tech 30 million years before the first real chameleon even existed. Let's start with nature's first chameleon. And trust me, the original was much weirder than the copycat. Now usually, when we talk about major Jurassic discoveries, we talk about skeletons the size of a school bus. But the story of Nabia is the opposite. If you were walking through the Lorraine Formation in Portugal, you wouldn't see a T-Rex skull staring back at you from the cliffside. Honestly, you wouldn't see anything at all. To the naked eye, these fossils look like, well, tea leaves, or maybe a few crumbs of burnt toast. Most of the 400 bones we found are less than 1 millimeter wide. Most scientists would have just swept this into a dustpan and called it a day. For decades, these were the ghosts of the fossil record, the stuff we ignored because it didn't look like a movie monster. We were lazy. We looked at these tiny fragments and just assumed, oh cool, a prehistoric lizardfish thing. We figured because it was small and lived in the mud, it had to be primitive. But nature loves it when we get arrogant. Because when the team in London finally put these burnt toast crumbs under high-resolution micro-CT scans, the screen didn't just show bone. It showed an absolute masterpiece of miniaturization. I'm talking joint surfaces so perfect they look machined. Holes for blood vessels so precise they look like they were drilled with a laser. This wasn't some clumsy prehistoric salamander. This was a biological sniper rifle. But when they finished the 3D reconstruction of the skull, they realized something that actually made them pause. It didn't look like a frog. It didn't even look like it belonged on the amphibian family tree. See, Nabia is an albinerpetontid. It's a mouthful, I know. They're a group of mystery amphibians that look like salamanders on the outside, but their anatomy says they were something else entirely, something almost alien. Biology loves its neat little boxes. You're either an amphibian, wet, slimy, and stuck in a pond, or you're a reptile. Simple. But 150 million years ago, Nabia looked at the amphibian handbook and straight up threw it in the trash. See, if you're a frog or a salamander, your skin is your biggest weakness. It's naked. It has to stay wet, or you die. And the twist is, Nabia kept that weakness. It didn't have the waterproof, scaly skin of a lizard. It still had that thin, porous amphibian skin that needed to stay damp to function. But Nabia was a rebel. Usually, having wet skin means you're a prisoner of the pond. If you wander too far into the dry woods, you turn into a raisin. Nabia looked at the Jurassic death trap ponds filled with predators and decided to leave anyway. It hacked the reptile toolkit. It grew osteoderms, tiny bony plates underneath its skin. Think of it like wearing a suit of chainmail under a silk shirt. The shirt is still wet and delicate, but the armor let it wander into the dry leaf litter and climb into the high canopy forests where no other slimy animal dared to go. It had the heart and the wet breathing of a salamander, but it had the eyelids and the keratin-tipped hooks of a reptile. It was basically a salamander in a lizard's spacesuit. And this is where we see convergent evolution on steroids. Nature had a problem. How do I get a wet-skinned animal to survive as a high-altitude sniper in a dry forest? It came up with the exact same solution it would give to chameleons millions of years later. Most amphibians have eyes that just stare into the void. But Nabia had eyelids. It could blink. It could protect its eyes from the dust of the canopy while it hunted. It was stealing the reptile's best features to survive a life it wasn't supposed to have. But the skin and the eyes were just the distraction. The real illegal tech, the piece of evidence that proves this, was a biological heist, was hidden inside its throat. Honestly, the more I looked at these side-by-side scans, the more it actually started to bother me. For comparison, on the right is Nabia, and on left side modern Chameleon. Now see, the architecture is nearly identical. But the disturbing part is, these two animals aren't related. They are separated by 100 million years and two entirely different branches of life. It's like finding two different civilizations on two different planets that both somehow invented the exact same sniper rifle. Because catching a bug with a tongue isn't a reach, it's an explosion. When Nabia fires, it's not just moving fast, it's creating a vacuum. The tip of that tongue is a specialized suction cup, coated in a biological glue so strong it makes industrial adhesives look like wet paper. Imagine you're a Jurassic dragonfly. You're scanning the horizon for a 30-foot dinosaur. You feel safe because the monsters are far away. But from a mossy branch 3 inches from your head, something moves at 20 feet per second. You don't see a predator, you just feel the pop of a vacuum, and your world goes black. This is what I called Invisible Apex's strategy. While the big names of the Jurassic were relying on brute force and size, this tiny glitch was running pure, cold-blooded engineering. It didn't need to be big, it just needed to be perfect. So by now you're probably thinking, this thing was unstoppable. A tiny, invisible, perfect predator. So where is it? Why isn't every forest on Earth crawling with these things today? Because perfection has a price. And for Nabia, the bill came due. When engineers tried to recreate this strike using computer models, they realized they weren't looking at a cute animal trait. They were looking at a nightmare of physics. To fire a tongue at those speeds, the muscles in that tiny throat have to generate more power per gram than a high-end supercar engine. We're referring to elastic recoil. Imagine taking a heavy-duty rubber band, stretching it until it's about to snap, and then letting it go inside your own throat 100 times a day. The tension is so high that it's actually disturbing. If that tongue misfired, or if it accidentally hit a branch that was too heavy, the kinetic feedback would have been enough to literally snap Nabia's own neck. Every time this creature got hungry, it was essentially setting off a biological explosion inside its own head. So, why did nature let it die out? My theory, it was simply too expensive to maintain. Nabia was the Ferrari of the Jurassic. It was fast, it was beautiful, but it was incredibly high maintenance. It needed that perfect wet skin humidity of the canopy to survive. The moment the climate shifted and the forests dried out, the Ferrari couldn't handle the off-road conditions. It vanished, leaving behind nothing but a few impossible bones that we weren't even supposed to find. So, what do we actually do with the discovery that tells us our history books are effectively fiction? For a long time, we viewed evolution like a ladder, a steady, logical climb. Life started dumb and simple, and slowly worked its way up to smart and complex. In that version of history, the chameleon tongue was a trophy, a high-tech reward for the winners of evolution who survived long enough to earn it. But Nabiaciviscientrix is the ultimate reality check. It proves that nature doesn't have a master plan. It doesn't care about our ladders. It just has a toolkit. And sometimes, it hands that toolkit to a tiny amphibian in the Jurassic, lets it build something extraordinary, and then buries the blueprints for 150 million years, waiting for us to be smart enough to dig them up. But here's the question that kept me up when I first read the 2026 report: why now? Why did it take us until this year to realize we've been wrong about the original chameleon for over a century? The answer is actually hidden in the name itself. The second part, Civiscientrix, isn't just a random string of Latin. It literally translates to "she who practices citizen science." That is the real twist. This wasn't found by some massive government-funded expedition or a billion-dollar laboratory. This illegal fossil was brought to light because of people like you enthusiasts, amateurs, and citizen scientists who refused to believe the map of our world was already finished. It's proof that the most world-changing secrets aren't always hidden in top-secret labs. Sometimes they're hiding in plain sight. waiting for someone to look closer. Nature's first chameleon wasn't a lizard. It was an amphibian that broke every rule in the book, lived in the shadow of giants, and died out before the first bird ever took flight. And the next time you see a chameleon in a pet store or a documentary, don't just see a cool lizard. See a copycat, a survivor running on a 150-million-year-old patent that was originally filed by a salamander with an identity crisis. Because in the high-stakes game of evolution, being first is the easy part. Staying alive? That's the real trick. If you want to see the other impossible discovery, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and stay curious.